Welcome to Navigating Now, real talk for rocky times. A Pete the Planner CalmCast.
Welcome, everyone, to Navigating Now, our show that we do on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. It's 10 minutes long, and it also becomes a podcast, or more appropriately, a
CalmCast
at the Pete the Planner podcast feed. May change the name to the Pete the Planner
CalmCast.
I don't know. We'll see what happens. Here's who this is for. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Your Moneyline serves hundreds of thousands of people through their employers. And they have ability to call our coaches and use our software to better make financial decisions, to get all the confidential and free help that they deserve. So if you're one of those participants listening or watching this right now, by all means, go to your account and you can take care of that. If you don't have Your Moneyline, go to your HR person and say, hey, we get a
CalmCast
every Tuesday and Thursday for free online, but there's a lot more to it. And of course, to the general public, hello and welcome. Today, I'm going to update you on what has happened since we last spoke, which was on Tuesday, April 15th, tax day. Boy, that's not Liberation Day. There was nothing liberating about tax day. Man, I need to hear this.
CalmCast.
Okay, I had to calm down for a second. Okay. So what has happened since then? Tuesday, I told you the volatility sort of came out of the market a little bit. What does that mean? It means that there weren't such wild swings from last Thursday to April 15th, which is this past Tuesday. It was just a little more mild. However, I tempted fate. I did something that you should never do, and that is jinx all of us. So the markets have been swinging wildly again. Today's topic gets right into that. We're talking about three things. We're going to talk about the stock indexes, like what they are and what they should tell you. Then we're going to spend a lot of time on consumer confidence. And then finally, liquidity. I always joke that my teenagers, they're the hydration generation. That has nothing to do with liquidity. And I'm not quite sure why I brought it up. All right, let's start with the markets. You hear people say it. In fact, I've said it 5 times already today, the markets. What in the world does that mean? What are the markets? Okay, so usually when people talk about the market, they're talking about the market indexes. Do you want to be smarter than all your friends here? When people talk about the market, they're generally talking about 3 specific groups of stocks or groups of companies. Okay. One of the oldest and most traditional things that people reference a lot, but don't necessarily measure against much anymore. It's called the Dow Jones Industrial Averages, DJIA, the Dow Jones. It's comprised of 30 stocks. So they take 30 companies, put them in a virtual basket, and they say, how do these 30 companies do today? From when the market opens to the market closes, what did the collective price of one share of each, what did it do? Okay, so that's the ultimate snapshot, very tight, 30 companies. And sometimes, like what's happening today, the Dow Jones can be getting crushed, like it have a really bad day. And then the other indices, plural for index, can be doing fine. Okay, so Dow Jones, 30 companies. Think of it like a really small group selfie, okay? Then there's the S&P 500. Now I'm going to give you one guess how many companies are in the S&P 500. I'm going to give you one guess. That's right. 400. No, there's 500 companies in the S&P 500. Same idea, essentially one share of each of those stocks of 500 companies, and it gives a broader look at how the market is doing. If you think about a market, let's think about a grocery store. A market has all sorts of products to purchase, all sorts of items all over the store. So that is the market. When you think about the stock market, you have all sorts of stocks you can purchase. So when you're trying to get a feel of how's the market doing, you're taking these snapshots within the marketplace of either the Dow Jones of 30 companies or 500 companies through the lens of the S&P 500. Now, you've also heard of NASDAQ. It's one of those rare words that has got a Q and no U in it. That's how I like to think of it. Anyway, those are primarily tech companies. Okay, so when they're like, how's the tech marketplace doing? you can measure it, up or down or whatever. So I want you to know that because, again, over the next several weeks, we're going to be referencing the markets, and I want you to know what we're talking about. I will speak for myself. When I speak of the market, I don't know why I'm asking you to remember this, but I am. When I speak of the market, I'm usually talking about the S&P 500. The weird thing is, when people talk about wild, massive market swings, they're usually referencing the Dow Jones because it's a larger number and it seems more shocking. Anyway, enough of that. I want to talk to you about something that once you understand this, it's going to kind of blow your mind a little bit because of its simplicity. Consumer confidence. Consumer confidence. So consumer confidence is a measure of how people feel about the economy. So if you're ever surveyed about what's going on in your financial world right now, you may be asked questions like, do you think your income will go up or down in the next year? Do you think it's a good time to make a big purchase? And are you worried about inflation, jobs, or the overall economy? So let's answer those questions right now. I'm going to give you a second. I'll go through them slowly. Do you think your income will go up or down in the next year? Do you think it's a good time to make a big purchase? Are you worried about inflation, jobs, or the overall economy? Now, here's what you've likely done. You've likely come to the conclusion that you don't love the answers to any of those questions, which is why consumer confidence, which is measured on a pretty regular basis, has fallen significantly here recently. The University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index fell 11%, which is the lowest level since the COVID-19 pandemic. Why do I bring this up? How you feel about your income, your ability to make big purchases, and about the economy at large will determine how much money you're willing to spend. Now, what's weird is we're a consumer-based economy. That means roughly 2/3 of all the economic activity going on are you and me buying stuff. Now, everyone else on this globe, especially the United States is a consumer-based economy. So that's to say, when people feel bad about the economy, when their confidence is shaken, they're not going to spend money. So therefore, it is a leading indicator because we're saying, I don't feel good now, therefore I probably will not spend money now or anytime in the near future. It is a leading indicator. Well, we have just learned that this leading indicator says that people are shaken. I am. Heck, this entire Navigating Now podcast stream is about this topic. I'll note this. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most important economic measure that you can possibly have, I view consumer confidence to be about an 8. That is to say, people do not feel good about what's happening, and that could mean that a recession is on the horizon. Let's pivot quickly to the personal finance topic of the day here on the
CalmCast.
It is liquidity. Liquidity is how much ready access do you have to your money? How much ready access do you have to your money? The money in your pocket is so liquid because as fast as you can reach down there and pull it out, you can spend it and do whatever you want with it. The money in your checking account, because of a debit card or the ability to use a check or an automatic transfer, very, very liquid. Money in your savings account, for most people, very, very liquid. Things like a certificate of deposit or anything that takes 3 to 5 days to process, like Venmo or even PayPal or Cash App. Sometimes that money transfer takes a little bit longer, so there's a little less liquidity there. Your 401k, unless you're 59 and a half years old or older, is not very liquid. You can't readily access that, I should say. Nice pronunciation. So why do I bring this up? During tough financial times, you need to be sensitive of how much liquid money you have in case of an emergency, knowing that your 401k itself is not liquid and therefore you should not count on it at all. Okay, that's it for this week's episode. Here's what we're doing next Tuesday, the 22nd. We're doing bull and bear markets. Oh, fun, animals. We're going to talk about the jobs report, which is fascinating because the March jobs report blew everyone's mind. I know, I'm a nerd. I got excited about it. Then finally, my favorite economic measure for you and your household is power percentage. That's next on the next Navigating Now. I'm Pete the Planner. Thanks for being here.